Hello everyone, this is Emirhan and the topic of this video is whether you should do a PhD or not. And the same for masters. We'll also discuss about masters, the application process, how to strengthen your application, how to end up in top places, and so on. And if you're an undergrad student, I believe this video would be even more helpful for you. But if you're a master's student or if you're already doing PhD, I think you can also get some benefits, hopefully. So yeah, let's begin. So yeah, to begin with, I'm a PhD student in computer science, specifically in artificial intelligence, in Université Sorbonne and Institut Polytechnique de Paris. My experience so far is quite okay, I would say, quite good. And like the decision process was quite, an application process was quite stressful, honestly. It was painful even, and kind of you should get ready for this process because the amount of competitiveness is exponentially increasing. Like, I'm warning you guys, you should really make sure that you want to do a PhD. The process is pretty hard, and I cannot even talk about the process of the PhD itself, but I can talk about the application process. So yeah, it's increasingly getting more and more competitive. So first of all, I think you should ask why you should do a PhD. For me, I worked in industry before starting my PhD, and I decided that engineering and the industrial like jobs were not really a great fit for me. I was more research oriented, and you know, in engineering, what you do is basically you take the existing AI models and you try to solve a business problem. So you somehow integrate them, you just learn how to use them, not really creating something novel, or like, it was not quite satisfying for me. And it can be perfectly satisfying for you. It depends on your interests, and especially I would say if you're obsessed with the subject you will do your PhD in, I think it's a good decision that you do a PhD. For me, I was quite obsessed with AI. I was like, sometimes not being able to sleep because I was quite excited about AI, especially when I was first learning about it. Of course, it doesn't need to be in that level of obsession, but if you're interested in, and if just using the existing models, just integrating them, doing some engineering, let's say, is not really satisfying for you, then yes, you should do a PhD. But if you're just doing it for like increasing your salary and that kind of superficial reasons, I would say you shouldn't do a PhD. For masters, you should like do it anyways, I would say, especially if you're planning to move to Europe. You kind of have to do it. But for US and UK, and for my country, for example, in Turkey, you don't really need to even have a master's degree for working as a software engineer or working as an AI engineer. If you want to do research, of course, you have to have these kind of titles, at least masters, and mostly a PhD. If you want to do research, if you want to create new models, if you want to create something novel, then yes, most of the cases or most of the times you kind of have to do a PhD. You have to do it. Yeah. So to talk about the places I was accepted to and I was rejected to. I was accepted from almost 20 different institutions. Yeah, I know it's a lot because I applied a lot, and I rejected from much more than that. I was rejected from maybe 40 places, or even more professors than places, because in PhD it's a bit different than masters. In masters, of course, you apply to the master's program, but in PhD you kind of apply to the professors, you type emails. So don't expect the same process in the PhD as you had in masters. Okay, so first of all, I was accepted from Birmingham in United Kingdom. I had interviews with LS program. So it's a nice program that allows you to apply, for example, 10 different professors at once. I think the limit is 10, but you can have interviews with the profs that you didn't choose, which was the case for me. So yeah, they can just flag your application, bookmark it, and then contact you. Other than that, thanks to my master's supervisor, I had a reference from him, and he knew someone that works in a similar subject as I was interested in. He contacted his friend, and we had an interview with him, and eventually he offered me the position. I didn't go for it, but yeah, having a good supervisor for your master's thesis or for your undergrad thesis is quite important as well. And I think I had maybe 5-6 opportunities based on just references. So make sure that you kind of be in good labs, like contact with good profs in your undergrad, in your master's. So yeah, other than that, I was accepted from Mila program. I received a bunch of offers from different professors in Mila, and I actually previously accepted one of them, but then eventually I had to withdraw from that opportunity because the prof I chose was really not responsive after I accepted the offer. So before I accepted the offer, everything was fine kind of, but then things started to change, and I will give you the same advice. It's really, really important that your supervisor is responsive, and it's really important that you meet with your supervisor at least once every week. That's what I heard from other PhD students, PhD graduates, alumni, and I can already say it in the beginning of my PhD because I also had kind of a research experience during my master's thesis. I was doing it in an industrial lab, and I can tell you that it was not like a supervision for me because my supervisors were not really able to supervise me. They didn't have a prior knowledge in the subject I was working on, and it's really important that the person you will do your PhD with is knowledgeable in that subject, okay? So yeah, in my previous experience, it was not the same. But thankfully, I had a good prof from my master's, but in the university side, not in the industrial lab side, but in the university side, I had a good supervisor, which also kind of opened doors for me. As I said a couple of minutes ago, I received an offer thanks to his reference from his friend. So yeah, it quite happens. And other than that, for the US, yeah, as I said, the competitiveness is exponentially growing, but for US, it's in a different level, so especially for the top places. And if you're an undergrad student watching this video, or if you're a master student watching this video, I have some bad news about master students. If you don't have any publications so far, I think your possibility of ending up in a top school in the US is quite low. And for undergrad students, start doing publications right now. Otherwise, it will be really hard for you as well. Or if you're a master's student, it's not still too late. Like you can give a gap year. You can work in an industrial lab or in a like academic lab, which you can publish. Just make sure that you publish there. Okay. Yeah. You know, the subject is kind of scattering, but the main point is publishing. Publish. Yeah. So, how to publish? If you publish in an unknown conference, it's not really important for the profs you're applying to or the schools you're applying to. So it's in AI. Of course, I don't know other subjects, but in AI, ICML, ICLR, NeurIPS, CVPR, ECCV, ICCV, maybe WACV a little bit are important. And if I forgot something, I will type it in the description. So yeah, for US, it's really competitive. But if you have publications, or if you're already having your undergrad in the US, both would increase your chances, but having publications would increase it even further. Yeah. The main subject of this video is publication. Do publication, especially if you're an undergrad student. Just go to a lab where you can have some top venue like conference papers. So yeah, publication. And for the US, I was rejected from almost everywhere I applied, like maybe 20 different places. I had some interviews from Arizona State University, and they have relatively higher acceptance rate. So if you're not aiming at the top universities in the US, it's possible that you go there, go those places without any publication. Or if you have a strong reference, as I said, like if you're prof in somewhere in Europe or somewhere in Asia, somewhere in Africa, doesn't matter. If your supervisor knows someone in the US, and if they know each other quite well, let's say, he can be a reference for you, and you would at least have an interview with the prof in the US. Okay. So yeah, other than that, another UK place, I was accepted from Trinity College as well. It was a LinkedIn job posting, so make sure that you follow LinkedIn and Twitter. People, the profs are quite oftenly share some job postings there. Another Mila offer. So as I said, Mila, you should definitely apply to Mila if you want to be in a good place, be in a good network. Mila is a great place, and it's not that competitive as US. Okay. Other than that, I received a bunch of other offers from Paris. So because I had my master's here, so let's say you had your master's, and master's is not that much competitive. Let's say you had your master's in Germany. The chances of you ending up in doing a PhD in Germany is much higher compared to you applying to Germany for a PhD from different country. Okay. If I stayed in Turkey and I was applying to, Turkey is my home country, if I was applying to Paris from Turkey, my chances would be much less, and I wouldn't have received many offers from Paris. Yeah, that's it. So another topic I would like to talk about is motivation letters. I already talked about references, it's really important. And yeah, make sure that you have 3 references, either from the place you worked at or from the profs in your school. I mean, you can, if you took a class from some professor, then you can type to them, but it would be much more powerful if you did a research, if you were in the same research project with that person, because the profs are looking at your application and they are trying to think if you are suitable for doing a research. Someone can be really great at engineering, but it doesn't mean that they would be great at actual research. Okay, so make sure that your application is kind of shouting like, I can do research. Okay, make sure. But okay, let's go back to the motivation letter. And it's quite similar actually. You should have a clear path, and you should somehow talk about your research endeavors or like research efforts in your undergrad, in your master's, or if you don't have any, then you should maybe give a gap year if you want to end up in a very prestigious place, let's say. Or yeah, at least you should show that you're potentially a good researcher, and at least you should show that you have a motivation. You can talk about some technical subjects. You are kind of specialized in a bunch of subjects. You should show it in your motivation letter. And I will put a link about the motivational letters, and you can see some samples from like the people ended up in prestigious places and how they actually wrote their motivation letters. That's a great website. I wish I knew it beforehand. I didn't. I learned about it very late, but yeah, you're lucky guys. So another topic is, what about doing masters? Especially if you're living in Europe, you have to have a master's, because the undergrad is quite like fast here, quite short, just 3 years, and they just take some general engineering or general science courses. So to specialize, they have to have a master's. But if you are from the US, which undergrad is like 4 years, or in Turkey, it's the same for my country. I think the UK, I'm not sure, but it's similar. You're already being specialized in your undergrad, so you don't need that. But yeah, if you're from Europe, whatever you do after masters, you should have a master's. And for United States, I don't think you would be that much engaged in research if you don't have a master's. or at least a master's, I would say, in anywhere in the world. Like if you want to engage in research, then you should have at least a master, and like in most cases you should have a PhD. And as I said, like for masters, the competitiveness is not that high. You can also consider applying to Paris because it's less competitive than Germany, for example, or UK. There's a language barrier, yes, but you will get used to it, don't worry. And another point is, if you are considering applying to Paris, you should definitely, especially if you're coming from a big city, which was the case for me. I'm coming from Istanbul, which has like 25 million, 20 million people approximately. And if you end up living really far away from the center, then there's a high chance that you'll get depressed. So make sure that you're living a little close to the center. And right now I'm staying at Cité Universitaire, so it's a place specifically for students. It's like a campus, it's like a park, and just for accommodation. There are like great events here. And the place I'm living in right now, I'm also in Cité. Maybe I will show you around very quickly. So yeah, this is very voluminous because there's bed upstairs, and this is the view from outside. So yeah. So this is the place I'm living in. These are the surroundings, and I specifically live in this building, and I really like it. I would suggest living here. And yeah, if we come to the conclusion, let's say, yeah, publication. You should have publications, and especially in good conferences like ICML, ICLR, or if you can't do that, because for example, if you're from Turkey, there's high chance that you wouldn't be able to find profs doing publications in those conferences. So you should at least like have IEEE conference papers, and it's better than not having anything. So yeah, make sure that you have stuff to show in your application, and make sure that if you're really eager to end up in a top place, then you can consider doing your master's in Europe, for example, getting ready for the top place, let's say Stanford. So you make some publications in your master's, then you can go for the top places. Also, there's a great website. You can just filter out depending on your country or depending on the place, like for example France or Turkey or somewhere else, for specific conferences, so you can see who is publishing in those top conferences, and then you can contact those professors either for your PhD or to strengthen your application, and like you would maybe have a publication with that person, because if someone has a track record, then probably they know how to publish in those conferences, right? So this is the website I was talking about, Paper Copilot. You can find the conferences here. You go to the paper list. For example, I chose NeurIPS 2025, which is a recent one. And don't forget to click on Click to Fetch All, because it's initially showing only 100 records, and then it's loading. Then you can just type the country you want. For example, I found my PhD supervisor thanks to this website. He was publishing in ICLR and CVPR. But you can specifically find profs during your undergrad, for example, to publish good conferences. You can filter according to your country. So yeah, that's I think it. Thanks a lot for watching, and again, like, thank you for the attention to my previous videos. I'm planning to do the sequential videos, but it's a bit hard as a PhD student. You don't have that much time. But I will publish a video about text-to-speech models again. I think I found something interesting while I was just working on it on my own. And so yeah, thanks a lot. Keep in touch. Bye-bye.